Nike has made itself present in the cycle of daily news. And it's been a while too since the last time they were at the center of a controversy. Could it be some new insider information about where the clothes come from? Is it the outrage over the children that make their clothes for cents on the dollar? Nope, it's because they adopted none other than American hero Colin Kaepernick as the new face of Nike and the Just Do It motto. You have to be a certain kind of exceptional to look at the empty seats from last year's NFL games and think to yourself, I want the guy who made that possible. To give credit where credit's due, I don't think I have ever in my life seen a single individual cause so much monetary loss for a company. Consider also that he has sued the NFL alleging that coaches were conspiring against him, which is why he didn't get signed. Colin thinks he has a right to be signed to an NFL team, even though no one wants to take him. The NFL wasn't colluding against him. This is common sense. The practical interpretation would be that Kaepernick's skill does not compensate for how much heat he brings. Take, for example, the fictional baseball player Kenny Powers from the show Eastbound and Down. In the show, the protagonist is an exceptional pitcher, one of the best, and he is in a similar bind. The character's disregard for the public reputation of his employer puts him in a similar situation to Colin Kaepernick. Kenny Powers was not worth the amount of bad PR he brought to the team. Think about it like this. Hypothetically, you own an NFL team. When you have the chance to sign players, you wouldn't sign somebody that is so controversial that a majority of your devout fans would leave in disgust. You would hire the next best person who, maybe he wouldn't be as skilled, maybe he would be a little bit more skilled. But you wouldn't get the baggage that came with Kaepernick, or somebody like him. That having been said, Kaepernick has put himself in the situation he is currently in, not that it's a bad one. He was the one that got on his knees. He is the one that decided to pull some shenanigans during the national anthem, something that people take very, very seriously. And he didn't know how people would react, or worse, he didn't care. Instead, he sauntered on in like he owned the place, jumped onto his knees as if he was Zeppelin playing Stairway to Heaven. That's his trademark. That's what he's known for now, getting on his knees. And that will be the legacy he leaves behind for many, many years. The man who got on his knees, Colin Kaepernick. Kaepernick had every opportunity to perform his activism outside of his work environment, but instead, he caused irreparable damage to the organization he was employed at. He had a microphone in his face anytime he wanted, and for some reason, he thought the national anthem was an ideal time to talk about his poor knowledge of statistics. Next time you're working customer service, and some customer gives you a rough time, ask yourself if your employer would work so hard to stand behind you if you stopped doing your job and decided to #take a knee. They wouldn't, by the way, and instead, these people on television tell me and you over and over again how heroic he is to get on his knees, while accepting millions of dollars from his employer, by the way. In a world where the media reminds you that ignorance is knowledge, diversity is our strength, and Colin Kaepernick and John McCain are American heroes, it's no surprise that Nike would decide to bring Colin back from the outskirts of relevance. Looks like Kaepernick might get his second 15 minutes of fame after all. So, what was the response, you might wonder? A lot of people burning their shoes, a lot of people laughing at people burning their shoes. I mean, some of them had a point. You could always donate the shoes, and you probably shouldn't burn so much rubber, but nah, that's no fun. And I'm not being sarcastic, I'm being genuine. That's no fun. Everybody likes a little bonfire to bring everyone together. But perhaps we could have a large bonfire. I think it would be far more effective to have one large bonfire of Nike items rather than a few isolated videos of a short assortment of shoes getting tossed into a small fire pit. Maybe there is somewhere, preferably in California, where everyone can bring out their Nike gear, gather at town square, and we can just see what happens. You may have heard about Stripe, a payment processor, terminating the account of BitChute. This happened just a few weeks ago, and this is a post by BitChute. On Wednesday of this week, We received notification via email that Stripe will no longer be able to have us as a customer. We asked for a phone call, but they declined and said there is no possibility of appeal. I know something similar happened to Vote in the past. They gave us only 5 days notice before restricting our account. We will make sure anyone who is owed money is paid, and we are working on getting a new payments provider. We've already contacted some and started their approval processes. I've decided to include the reason Stripe gave us below, copied directly from one of their emails to us. Please know, Richard, that it would be our absolute preference to continue working with your business, and this decision is in no way a reflection of our feelings towards your business, from either a moral or legal standpoint. Rather, this is a restriction imposed upon us directly from our financial partners, who have an archaic and frankly antiquated view of non-traditional businesses. As such, our hands are truly tied here. I hope that you can appreciate that. The oligarchy of tech influence has become more arrogant and less worried about staying in the shadows. Really makes you wonder, since maker support was also denied by Stripe, although the reason was never given. Now all of that money that was donated to maker support and to creators through maker support is just sitting there. No one's able to pull from it, no one's able to get paid, it's just there. But these companies have gone yet another step further. Bloomberg has reported that Google is working with Mastercard, cutting advertisers special deals on user information in order to track sales. For the past year, select Google advertisers have had access to a potent new tool to track whether the ads they ran online led to a sale at a physical store in the US. That insight came thanks, in part, to a stockpile of Mastercard transactions that Google paid for. But most of the 2 billion Mastercard holders aren't aware of this behind-the-scenes tracking. That's because the companies never told the public about the arrangement. Alphabet Incorporated's Google and Mastercard Incorporated brokered a business partnership during about 4 years of negotiations, according to 4 people with knowledge of the deal, 3 of whom worked on it directly. The alliance gave Google an unprecedented asset for measuring retail spending, part of the search giant's strategy to fortify its primary business against Amazon.com and others. Google paid Mastercard millions of dollars for the data, according to 2 people who worked on the deal, and the companies discussed sharing a portion of the ad revenue, according to one of the people. They asked not to be identified, discussing private matters. A spokeswoman for Google said there is no revenue sharing agreement between its partners. A Google spokeswoman declined to comment on the partnership with Mastercard, but addressed the ads tool. Before we launched this beta product last year, we built a new double-blind encryption technology that prevents both Google and our partners from viewing our respective users' personally identifiable information, the company said in a statement. We do not have access to any personal information from our partners' credit and debit cards, nor do we share any personal information with our partners, the company said. People can opt out of ad tracking using Google's Web and App Activity online console. Inside Google, multiple people raised objections that the service did not have a more obvious way for cardholders to opt out of the tracking, one of the people said. As if that massive data breach of Facebook's wasn't enough, now we have this to worry about as well. Remember Google's old motto? Well, that's not so relevant anymore. Not for them. Not for Google, a company currently building a censorship-heavy version of its service for the Chinese government, something they stood against until they had a monopoly for themselves. Now, they are eager to work with the Chinese government in order to stifle information. Whenever the next person comes to you shilling for a company's right to enforce its TOS, you be sure to remind them of what these companies are doing behind the scenes with information it gathers on its users. TOS is always written in a way that anyone at any time could be found breaking them. So to revere them as if they were shouted out from on top of a mountain is foolish at best. Be careful out there with information, especially when it comes to Google and Mastercard. Well, that'll be it for this video. Here it is, your moment of clarity.